Right, can everyone see my screen? Anyone?
Yes, now I can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ready to rock and roll. The floor is yours. Good evening, everyone, council members, our city manager, Mr. Altman, Ms. Robinson, our city attorney, and Ms. Bess, our city clerk, is here this evening along with council. I would like to call the meeting to order and roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Here.
Councilor Randolph,
Here.
Councilor Holloway,
Here.
Councilor Gore,
Here.
Councilor Denton,
Here.
Councilor Pelham.
Here.
Mayor Bennett, you have 7-0. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting?
I'll move to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2-2.2-3711A1 to discuss and consider personnel matters, including but not limited to the assignment, performance, and salaries of specific appointees, officers, and employees of the city, including the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk, and to consider prospective candidates for appointment to various boards and commissions, A7 and 8, to consult with legal counsel and staff regarding specific legal matters where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the city's interests, and to the extent these conversations will be aided thereby. A4, for the protection of the privacy of individuals in personnel matters not related to public business.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Pelham, seconded by Councilor Denton. Roll call.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Councilor Randolph.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 7-0. Motion passes to go into closed.
Thank you. I will see everyone in close. All right, not everyone, but council. Oh, well, whatever.
So normally, I would just use the phone right here, because it's easier to keep, that's the gate between the two.
Oh, okay, just call.
Yeah, just call from there.
like the, hold on.
Said that much, not to be.
Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. Is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
I move that we come out of closed session.
Second. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by myself, Mayor Bennett.
You ready for
I
roll
don't
call?
see any hands for discussion.
Sorry.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore, Counselor Gore, Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pallam,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph.
Yes.
Okay, is Counselor Gore on the call?
Yep.
There you are, okay. Did you agree to go into close, Counselor Gore? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Mayor Bennett, you have 7-0 to come out of closed.
Thank you. Will you please read the certification?
Yes, ma'am. Certification pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3712D, where only public business matters, 1, lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and 2, identified in the closed meeting motion discussed in closed meeting. And I'll do roll call. Counselor Holloway?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Counselor Randolph?
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 7-0 on certification.
Thank you. I would like to ask if there is a motion, if we'd like to state the appointment this evening for the school board.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Cuffey, Nelson Gregory Cuffey be, I guess, nominated for selection as the school board office member.
I'll second.
Who was the second?
Holloway.
Counselor Pelham has made the motion. Counselor Holloway, a second. I don't see any hands for discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
No.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
No.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph.
No.
Mayor Bennett, you have 4 yes, 3 no's. Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Director Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett and Vice Mayor Parton and all members of City Council. Just to make sure, are you all able to hear me this evening?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I am here tonight to provide an overview of a request received by James R. Jones Builder Incorporated in care of J. Jones to modify the development standards found in Article 18, Section G, subsection 14, entitled Erection of a Building. The ordinance requires any construction in a residential or commercial zoning district to have principal frontage on a public street of record, except when otherwise permitted for a townhouse or in a planned unit development. And I'm not sure if I'm able to share my screen, but if so, I would like to present the information that's in your packet. Am I able to do that, Mayor Bennett?
Yes, please. I'll stop share.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
And before I get started, I just want to let you know that this information is all in your packet. I've just presented it in a simpler format than in the 9-page staff report. Also with you tonight is the applicant, Mr. J. Jones, and we have Johnny Butler, our city engineer, who is able to answer any questions you may have about the application. So the application request, as I stated already, is to modify the development standards, specifically Section G, subsection 14, and that's just written out here. This also provides you a map of the area. This is an unimproved right-of-way easement off of Jackson Farm Road. This property was annexed from Prince George County in 1969, and the unimproved easement is owned but not maintained by the city. The maintenance is the responsibility of the adjoining property owners. And this plat here, as you can see, is dated August 3rd, 1956. The access easement is a public right-of-way easement and provides access to the city pump station. And the area in red is where the pump station is located. And the easement actually gives access to 8 different lots. 4 of these lots are homesteads, and their homes were built in 1940, 1953, 2001, and 2006. The easement is comprised of dirt and loose and impacted gravel, and a power pole will be a part of the the improvement of the relocation, and the power pole will have to be relocated next to the city's pump station. Here is just an overview of the city engineer's analysis, and this is a plat that was also in your packet that shows the right-of-way and the access from Jackson Farm Road. And the new dedicated 30-foot right-of-way pipe stem access easement overlays and expands on a 20-foot easement that is there. And the city engineer, he can speak more about this, but I just wanted you to see this prior to him speaking. This road section structure will be able to carry the 70,000 pound load of our fire trucks. Right now, it cannot do that. There were, during the Planning Commission meeting, there were some concerns that were raised by adjacent property owners. They either came over a phone conversation or through email. I've talked to those property owners, and so has the applicant. And this just outlines some of the issues that were recorded. One issue was traffic. Another was drainage, the power pole removal and the loss of power, the elimination of privacy and the country-like feel of the easement, and also potholes. And the developer provided a solution for each of these issues, and these solutions are provided here. For the traffic, he was requested to put in speed humps in accordance with the city engineer, and that is something that will be discussed. In regards to the drainage, the design of the easement, which will be an inverted center line, will direct drainage to Jackson Farm Road into our city drainage system. The power pole removal, an applicant was concerned about the time for the loss of power, and that loss of power will only be 1 to 2 hours. The elimination of privacy and country-like feel, although this cannot be helped and this is not something that the city promises, the developer has said that all the trees on the property where the houses will be built, if this is approved, will some of those trees will remain. And in regards to potholes, actually adding pavement and improving this easement will eliminate the potholes. The city council responsibility. The city council must determine if the modification to the standard should be waived to allow the construction of 2 single-family detached homes on a public right-of-way easement instead of a public street. And the ordinance requires the council to consider 4 criteria in order to determine if the modification should be granted. And staff contends that council should also consider the neighborhood impact and the safety of the residents. And this is just to quickly go through the 4 criteria. If the applicant meets any of these criteria, the modification cannot be granted. First, does the granting of the modification constitute the granting of a variance, special exception, conditional use, or rezoning? And the Planning Commission decided no, it did not. Ordinary financial considerations are the principal reason for the requested modification. This is not the case. The modification amends a property-specific condition imposed by the City Council or the Board of Zoning Appeals, unless such conditions specifically grant such modification authority to the City Council. The modification will not amend a property-specific condition. And the last criteria, the applicant created the condition or situation generating the need for the modification, and the applicant has not exhausted all other practicable solutions to the problem, including but not limited to the acquisition of additional property, the elimination or redesign of structures, or the reduction of the development density. The Planning Commission concluded the applicant did not create the condition or situation generating the need for the modification. While the owner purchased the properties, the public right-of-way easement has existed at least since 1956. And without the modification of development standards, the properties would not be buildable. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 6th and recommended approval of the request, 5-0. The commission concluded that the request did not meet the criteria that would require a vote in denial. And they also felt that this improvement will help the function and the safety of the easement. This is a work session, but the next step is for council to schedule a public hearing either on July 13th or July 27th of this year. And as I've stated before, the city engineer, Mr. Butler, is on the line in order to answer any questions, and I can go back to the slide where his opinion is noted. And you also have the applicant, Jay Jones, on the line to answer any questions or to give a statement. I am also here if you have any questions regarding the staff report. Thank you, and this does conclude the presentation.
Question,
Thank you. Yes,
may I ask?
yes, ma'am.
We don't have a meeting on the 27th, do we? Just for clarification.
A council meeting?
Yeah. I think
Not-
I don't think we had that in our calendar. But
Not that I'm aware of.
okay. Somebody can check that out. So we may only have one meeting to do the public hearing. That's my point.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes, I'm sorry, my mute button.
that's all right. This year when council adopted its calendar, you did add a second meeting in July and August this year. Traditionally, we've had one meeting in the months of July and August to accommodate vacations, but this year y'all added, when you adopted your calendar, you did add a meeting on the 27th and a meeting on August 24th, I believe.
Okay.
No.
But I would anticipate that if we could get this together for your 13th meeting, we'll attempt to make every effort to get this available for when you're ready for the meeting on the 13th, should council decide it wanted to potentially cancel the meeting on the 27th.
No, that's what I need to know. I just didn't remember. I know we traditionally are off and I couldn't find the calendar, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm in favor of doing the public hearing at the first meeting in July.
I am as well. Is there any other counselors who are opposed to having the public hearing, the first meeting in July?
No.
Okay. So if you would add to the agenda that we will have the public hearing at the first meeting in July.
Ma'am, I've noted it.
I'm sorry.
I have noted it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands. Okay. And we're going to move on to the boards and commissions. Dr. Manker.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today, Ms. Bess and I will be presenting to you the boards and commissions new site that was built per the request of council. I will share my screen, and as I am pulling up that information, I will go ahead and say that afterwards, Ms. Bess will walk with you through the information that she had gathered together and scrubbed in efforts for us to create this website. And so just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen at this moment in time? Okay. So as you guys can recall, we had the boards and commissions listed on the city's website here, located under boards and commissions. And now when we click there, it opens up to this site here. It lists all the boards and the commissions that are available. The menu is here up top. It allows you to see the meetings that are available presently. It gives you the agenda packet, the agenda, and the video that corresponds with the agenda. The calendar is also here for citizens to be able to see when the council meetings are, when they will be held and at what time. And then
Dr. Manker, can I, intercept? Mr. Jones, I would like to thank you for coming. And if you would like to leave the meeting at this time, you are free to do so. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So continuing with the board's directory, we go there. We now have a directory of all the boards, and we can go into one of the boards and commissions website here. We have the Architectural Review Board, and as you can see, we have all the individuals that are members. We decided to put the staff information here at City Hall, located here. And it also goes through the term lengths and the number of positions. So you can, if you have time, you can visit this site and walk through all of it. But I think Ms. Bess today will try to go through some of this information with you guys to finally get it cleaned up, to determine which boards and commissions we would like to keep and the others that we can remove. But she will be able, now that the site is ready to go, she will be able to just go in here and edit the, what you see. Here we have the board members directory. And so now you can see in just one, page what's available, when their term ends, who the members are, what their positions are. And the creators are currently working on providing us with a reporting tool that will allow Ms. Bess to be able to pull a report based on the number of vacancies that are open, the number of boards that we have, just various reporting tools for you guys to see in a cleaner way. And the topic for discussion tonight is listed here. We have the citizens now have the ability to apply for a boards and commission for whichever one they would like to participate on. And here's the application. It's just really in a raw format. I would like for a discussion today to be had based on, to talk about the application. As you know, that the application is currently in a PDF format, but when we put this application online, this is what we have. And we just want to make sure that we're capturing the information that is needed and that's required in order to apply to the boards and commissions. So it's in this very rough format today. And then afterwards, we will move this application under the each boards and commissions or commissions, they will have the ability to apply from the one that they're actually interested in. So that's the presentation. That's what I have for you today. I'm open for questions and comments. And if you do not have any, then I will yield the floor to Ms. Best to go through some of this information. Questions? Okay, Ms. Best.
Good evening, counselors. I am actually going to bring in Counselor Gore with me. I provided her, if she doesn't mind, of course, I provided her with some information, and the information that's in your packet on the PowerPoint, she actually did that based on my information. So I think that she could speak better to that. And that is where I took the information I received in calling people and emailing people and trying to update all the boards and commissions before they were downloaded into this system. So what's in the system should be pretty much correct. But anyway, with that being said, Counselor Gore, do you mind interjecting?
No, thank you, Ms. Best. So I'll tag Ms. Best in throughout the conversation to provide input. Just as a refresher, this is a follow-up to the work session that we had a couple months back. Everyone had ample time to look over this, because thank you guys for moving this work session over to this meeting. So the first page of the presentation, it should be in the packet. If we could put that back on the screen, it just gives an overview of the goals for tonight. And I would like to see if we can stick to one page at a time so that we can get through this swiftly. So I'm starting on the page where it says review of board status, active versus inactive. As I shared last time, we have a lot of boards that were not meeting or either submitting their minutes. And so 2 years ago, I went back in my notes. 2 years ago, I asked for council support to send out letters to the chairs and the staff liaisons about submitting their minutes and then also doing their annual reports. I'll address the annual reports later, but in regards to their minutes and them being active or not, this is where we're talking about. So in active or active status, I believe this is in reference to who is meeting and kind of who is not meeting. And so some of the boards meet as an on-needed basis and some meet quarterly. However, you have up here the no's representing who has not met in sufficient time. So based off of this, are there any recommendations on boards to remove? And I will say, as a side note, while we'll get the presentation on the screen, the code and fire prevention appeals, that is no, but they meet on as needed. Board equalization meets once, well, they have a session during each year that they meet. However,
We're not seeing anything.
yeah, I'm not controlling the screen, so I don't know where.
Yeah, I thought Mayor Bennett might share, but I'm going to go in right now. So give me just a second.
Well,
I can definitely do that.
Okay.
I thought the Board of Equalization meets once, at least once a year.
Yeah, I just said that. I said they meet in like a session. They have like a time period during the year that they meet. So just for clarification, while we're getting this on the screen, Ms. Best, can you kind of annotate why you said, well, share why some are no and some are yes. And as we go through this, we can provide clarity, because as I shared before, some people meet on an as needed basis or have a special time that they meet.
Yes. Okay.
I can go through that part for you if you can just explain why did you put yes and why did you put no.
Okay. I'm trying to look at the screen myself. My mind just went completely blank. So give me a second. There we go. I'm back. I put yes if I had that they were active, if I had been receiving minutes or setting up meetings or getting notes or any kind of activity at all came through me. I put that as being active, unless I had spoken to them and knew that they wanted to be active, but just didn't have enough members maybe to be active. So that was kind of a gray area, but I included them as active because they were just waiting for members. Anyone who had not submitted any meeting request, any minutes, any notes, anything, I put no for inactive.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's not
Can we go up-
accurate.
Well,
No.
hold on 1 second. Can we please go up to the screen that says active versus inactive? It's the slide above. So let's just go through this in order so we don't get out of order. Build a fire prevention appeals, that is going to be, that should say yes, because they do meet on calls. They might not have met when Ms. Bess has been here, but they do meet. Board equalization is the same thing. They have not probably met since she's been here. Board of Zoning Appeals is a yes. Wastewater, the Central Waste Management Authority, we need to get Ms. Bess connected to that organization because we do have staff that serves on that board and they should be communicating to Ms. Bess. Community Development Block Grant, they do meet and they meet once a year, and that's with Ms. Griffin. South Council on South Central Corridors.
Why don't we do this outside of the meeting for this?
This is the purpose of the work session. So, and
This should have been done beforehand.
I try to do it beforehand, but I kind of got, okay, so I'm not going to get distracted during this work session. You guys got this list out in advance. Is there anything on here that says no for inactive status that you think we should remove as the board? The first thing I would definitely say is the DOT Commission. We tried to revive it. It does not seem like that is working. So council should make a decision on the DOT Commission based off of who is really actually inactive. And the rest of the boards that are on here, it's just a matter of the regional boards, Ms. Bess being connected to our appointees on there because they do meet.
Okay.
Say something, my hand's up.
Yes.
Well, I'll say this while you said that about the one you just mentioned.
Mhm.
That's part of our charter, so we just can't make a vote and do that. We have to go through the General Assembly to get that one done. But the rest of them, if you could put a legend to say no, meaning to type in what Ms. Bess had indicated, and no means no minutes, no interaction with the particular board or staff, so that we would, people that receive this document, no doesn't mean they're inactive. It's just that they haven't shown that they were active and not turning in minutes.
Okay, so we can make the annotation. If you want to go to the next slide, that one specifically talks about minutes. Please, whoever's managing this. This is for the minute submission. As you can see here, if she does not get any minutes from them, she has clearly annotated it. That means they've met and she hasn't received minutes.
Well, that's not accurate because we've got in this council meeting and previous, the Historic Preservation Committee has given us minutes. So I don't know why that says no.
Yeah, and you're correct, Councilor Randolph. I'm not sure why that says no either. That's a definite not no.
Isn't the minutes we
I'd
got
have to-
not old?
I was to say, this was made 2 meetings ago
Yeah,
by the time. So, I mean, we.
well,
got-
that's true. I don't know when I got those
Yeah,
minutes.
this is, so it could be in this particular instance that was just something that wasn't updated, but at the time this was generated, there wasn't any minutes. So again, not, of the boards listed here, council received it for this meeting and the meeting prior. Do you see any other boards that we should consider dissolving because they're not active or are not submitting minutes?
No, I don't think you should dissolve the board if they're not submitting minutes. We just need to request that they do so and get with the staff member that represents that board to ensure it's done. But if they're not active and there's no need for it, yeah, you can maybe dismantle it, but not just because of the minutes not being provided.
So, I mean, it's all the same situation. So I asked if they were inactive or because, and I mentioned earlier that I tried to get minutes submitted and we're still in the same situation. So it's up to the will of council. I combined those 2 points in one sentence, but the question still stands. Is there anything does anybody want to do regarding, I'll separate it out, any of the inactive boards? who have not met.
Based for between
Who
both.
just have, forget minutes, I'm just saying have not met, period.
Hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
The new software that we have would be for boards to submit their minutes. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that's, when will that actually go live, or has it gone live yet?
It's actually live.
Okay.
It's being worked on in the background. I'm happy to show it to you where the minutes are going to be stored.
Well, I just wanted to know if the review boards have been contacted of the new process and uploading those, and Ms. Beth, when you were reaching out to the boards and commissions and they stated, hey, we haven't met at all, we haven't, we don't even have a meet. These are listed here. Am I
Yes.
correct?
Everyone,
Except for the Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Committee. They have submitted minutes as far as Director Griffin just stated.
right. And that's
But that was
exactly
after.
right. I just don't know, like Councilor Gore was saying, I don't remember. Maybe I got them after I created this document. I don't know. I'm not saying I didn't or I did. I'd have to
Right.
go back and look. But yeah, it should be pretty accurate. Anyone that got back with me and let me know they were active, I certainly put it there if I didn't have any information on them.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay.
I'll say something.
Oh, yeah.
I would recommend the Council of the South Central Quarters maybe deleted. I'm not on that board anymore. I don't think they were thinking about dissolving when I left a couple of years back, because they weren't funded by the federal government like some of the other boards quarters were. So we can check with them, and I think they're inactive from the regional. That's a regional board.
And that's the council, yes, that's the council appointed board, yes.
Yeah.
Regional. Mhm.
And also, the Central Waste Management Authority is a regional board that we appoint someone to, right? The city manager, maybe?
I think Monique and Mr. Butler is on there, if I'm not mistaken.
Right now, Ms. Monique Robertson is on, and we have a vacancy. We could appoint someone.
Okay.
That's right. We had to take him off because it needed to be a citizen appointee, right, Mr. Altman? I think that's what it was.
I don't know if it has to be a citizen, but in the past, we've had a staff member and an alternate there. But we do have a vacancy, and I can find out from CVWMA what that vacancy is and if it's required to be what the requirement is for that vacancy.
Okay.
And yeah, the Crater District on Aging, we have a representative. I know she goes to the meeting. And District 19 Community Service Board, I believe we have someone going. We may not get the minutes because again, that's a regional type thing, but I do believe they're active, the members that we appointed.
So my recommendation is the Southside Corridor one, double check if they're not active still, because they haven't been for a while. And
if they are, then send them a letter and say,
yeah. But then everybody else that is a regional, I recommend that we support Molly making contact with those organizations to get her connected to those who call the meeting, so we'll at least know when they're meeting, and if when they have minutes, then we can get them. And then for the boards and commissions that have not submitted minutes, that we send them another letter requesting for them to submit minutes, but have there be some type of action behind it if they do not.
Yeah, if they're not going to do it, then you have to appoint someone else that will.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to ask this, but are we under some kind of parameters that the work sessions should have ended and our regular meetings started? I just don't know.
No, we've done this before, but if you want to end this to go to a regular meeting.
No, I just thought the city attorney, if we were out of parameters, could speak up, but if we're not, then she can stay silent. I just didn't know.
Madam City Attorney, will you answer, please?
Doesn't interject unless you ask.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so the general rule is you can start late, but you cannot start early for a meeting time.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Thank you. So does anyone have any objections to that? Number one, double checking if the council on South Side Central Corridors is active or not. If they are, then we have to find a council member to be appointed to that. For the regional boards and commissions, for Molly to make contact to let them know that she's the clerk and to communicate when there's minutes and meetings called. And for the council, for the city appointed boards and commissions, those who are not receiving minutes, be given a letter, they have to start doing that. And then for Molly to give us an update, I guess by September on that to get, because not everybody meets monthly, to give an update around that time frame.
And Council, I think, Mr. Partner, you remember that South Side committee we talking about? I think we're.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I was having some difficulty on my phone unmuting myself. We meet pretty much quarterly, and it was my understanding that minutes were submitted. But I can reach out to Carolyn, who's our staff rep, and ask her to forward them to Ms. Best.
So y'all see a meeting then?
Correct. Yeah, we meet quarterly.
Oh, okay. So.
Thank you for that. With that addition, still with the recommendation, is everybody fine with that so we can move on?
Yeah, could we also add a column that says how often they meet? So it would become clearer to all of us.
Okay, we can work on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I'm fine with what you suggested.
Okay, thank you. We'll send that back out in the email. So the next slide is the twice a year, okay. The annual report compliance, if we can move on to that slide, please. Again, so in council's rules, it included that all city boards and commissions had to make an annual report to council. KHB is known for doing this. Downtown Partnership is known for doing this. However, other board, Parks and Recreation Commission does that. Mr. Reed Miller does on their behalf, but almost everybody else really doesn't do a report out annually. Council did support in 2019 having the clerk's office set out a calendar to make sure that we got those reports from boards and commissions, and just let that liaison / chair know this month, this year, you're going to be doing your report out. That wasn't, it started, but it never was fully carried out. And so part of us really not knowing what's going on at the level we should be and also engaging with those who will be carrying out work on our behalf. I would like to see that reinstated, but it's up to council if you want to actually have that continue. Is there any thoughts on that?
I think an annual review should happen. And social services does it as well. But
yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to try to get some annual reports, even if it's just written or a presentation from some of these boards and commissions, especially these outside agencies that we give money to each year in our annual budget.
Yeah, because they can.
Is there any objections to one of the follow-up tasks being that either Molly ask them when their annual reports for the regional groups, ask them when they typically do their regional report, their annual report, and ask for a copy, but annotate when that's typically done because they might have their own schedule. So you can make a calendar of that. But then for the council, for the city appointed ones, to give them a time frame in which they had to give us the report out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone opposed to that?
Yeah, they just put it in the packet and they present maybe for 10 minutes, and if we have questions, we can, engage them.
Okay. All right, I'll put that down. All this will come back to council, but yes, okay. There's no objections, right? Okay, next slide.
No.
All right, cool. Next slide is the purpose of the boards and commissions. Just wanted to make sure I asked this last time, but people wanted more time to think about it and research. So I guess for the purpose of tonight, I guess we're not going to be able to really dive into this, but I still remain to, my position still is the same, that we should be asking ourselves, are our boards and commissions doing what they were created to do? Are they reaching their goals? If not, should we have some clearly defined goals for them under the parameters that they were set up to do? So for example, looking at some of the KHB, I'm only saying this as a reference, not to knock KHB because they do great work. KHB is supposed to be working on education, about litter, and make suggestions about policy. Have they been empowered to do that? What are those recommendations? The Architecture Review Board, a few years ago, we approved their revision to their guidebook. We said that we would come back, I think, in 6 months, or I forgot the certain time frame for us to revisit it. We also said that we was going to do exit interviews from the people that applied to get their feedback. Have we circled back around to that? We haven't. And so in regards to one, what is the board established to do? And based off what they're established to do, how are they fulfilling that? And I guess, and I know that goes into the annual report, but then also it would be helpful to know in real time what people are working on, to let us know if they're meeting for a purpose. I don't know how people feel about that, but again, it would be helpful to know what they're doing on our behalf right now while we work on trying to get people set up for annual reports. Does anyone have any objections to inquiring about that?
No.
No.
So we need to consider budgets for some of these boards if we expect them to do something like educate our,
Mm-hmm.
You need to consider whether or not they need a budget to do all those things.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I didn't hear any objections, so I'll put that down as a note. Suggested new board creation. Again, this still might be premature, but I still feel as if we should be looking at the lay of the land where we are now. These boards have been the same since I've been on council for 10 years. They have not adjusted, and we've had the same repeated conversations regarding if they're meeting, are they active? And also through the years, I've heard from people who have interviewed and decided not to take position or got appointed and resigned shortly after. It wasn't what they were thinking. I think some people have different expectations or want to be involved in different level within our government. And so I would really ask council to consider creating new boards. With all this talk with the arts going on in the community, we did have conversations about trying to get a poet laureate. We talked about reviving the Ashford Civic Plaza, which is left off the TBR. I have to make sure when we get to that page, I remind you guys of that. But take, for example, since that has been revised, we have to finish making appointments to that if we ever get around to it. But that was about putting art and the statues in the plaza. Why don't we make that to look at artwork throughout downtown? Or art within the city. What about there being something regarding health? A few years ago, the Hill Committee, that was a grant with Department of Health, that was put on the agenda to solidify them, to make them be a health committee within the city, especially right now with COVID and some of our health statistics. We could use a community health organization, like team of citizens working on health issues in the community. I have some suggestions that I am going to submit in a future agenda packet for council to consider, but I'm just saying that look at the boards and commissions that we have. They've always been that way. How can we try to be innovative with bringing people into the fold to be more involved in their government and looking at how can they help us advance goals within the city? So that's just some suggestions that I have. I'm going to put on another agenda, but really quickly opening the floor. Does anyone else have suggestions or give any thought to this?
Please make a note. I believe we voted on Miss Dr. Emily DiCarlo as a poet a couple of years back. 4 years probably. You remember that?
Yeah. I do.
We have one. We just haven't taken advantage of
What, of a what?
poet laureate.
I think Mayor Shornack put that on the agenda.
Yeah, and we voted for her. Miss DiCarlo, Dr. DiCarlo. We just haven't used her. I don't think, maybe once.
But aside from that, any idea, is there any sentiment about looking at new boards or having future conversations regarding this? Or in general, are people content with the boards and listing that we have now? And before anyone says, hey, I think we need to look at this deeper before we can talk about new boards, I understand that might be some positions. I'm not rushing this, this topic. I'm just advocating that we look at this. But in general, I can stop wasting my time advocating for it if people feel like the boards and commission list that we have right now is sufficient. So is anyone interested in having a future conversation about board creation, or is everyone fine with the list of boards that we have?
The committee that you're working on with the health initiative now, is that going to be a continuum, or will that stop at some space and time?
The goal is for it to be a continuum, but it will require additional funding that that person will be responsible with getting.
Well, could that be turned into one of the committees then? I mean, it seems like we would need a committee for that to continue that work and talk about that. That would be a new.
I'm not sure that that would fit with this grant because they just approved our work plan. So that would have to make them go back over it, but I'm not sure if that's fitting for this, but I'll definitely talk to Ms. Griffin to give feedback, and I can make that recommendation with my other boards with what she says and what the.
And if someone's doing health, then maybe we don't need a committee, but if they not do it, then maybe we will.
Right. I was just throwing that out there as an example that we could have had a HEAL committee. That's all.
I know, a health committee or whatever.
I think we should look at our current committees and sit around in a special meeting at some point in the near future and talk about the ones we already have before we move on to new ones. But I'm definitely in favor of looking at everything that we're all doing and whether we need a committee to address that for future.
Okay, so is anyone opposed to having a future discussion regarding creating new committees?
No.
Okay, moving on to the next page. Talent bank resume. Dr. Manker touched on this already. I would just recommend on here, Ashford Civic Plaza is not listed on the TBR. It should be on there. Additionally, there was questions regarding certain things that we're asking for in order to do background checks. So council needs to make the decision on what to do. So I think it was to remove the social security number asked, and can we please have the screen slide up to remove the question about your social security number. I guess if we're appointed and we need to do a background check, we can just reach out to them individually. I'm on this page that says suggested changes to talent bank resume.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a couple of slides up. So the only thing I would make as a recommendation for the TBR is to double check one more slide, please. Double check the spelling on here. There's a couple of spelling errors right here. Thank you. On this document, but then most importantly, and some boards were listed incorrectly in terms of their appropriate title, but didn't want to make any changes without talking to council. The other thing I would definitely say is, since it's already in the software, it can be tweaked. We've all witnessed that when we have people interview, the resumes are separate, which is fine. You can't really do much with that, but the answers, there's not enough space for them to really answer questions about themselves or while they're applying. And so, for example, the first question says, what are your specific qualifications, skills, and abilities as it relates to the boards, commissions, or committees on which you have requested to serve? And how will they enhance the board and commission? That could be two separate questions. Like, what qualifications do you bring to the board that you're applying? Question number one. Question number two, how are your abilities that you feel like, how do you feel like you can contribute? I feel like we should just ask some very clear questions because this is really old form. Does anyone have any suggestions regarding that or have any issues with making some suggestions and bringing that back to council?
No, when we have the meeting, people can do it in advance of the potential changes they would like and then discuss it further.
Yeah, because I've got some suggestions for some new changes so we don't treat people differently and set up certain boards and commissions that we always get interviews and resumes on versus those that we don't. And we need to install how quickly we can take resumes and vote on somebody coming in so that it's not pushed through and when there's a resignation, et cetera. So we need to address all of that.
That's true.
Okay.
Because in light of not having a policy, you just do what you do traditionally. That's,
Okay, well, does anyone opposed to sending that information to me in like 2 weeks so I can consolidate it and put into a presentation? Because hopefully in 2 weeks time, we can get some answers regarding these other things and have a future work session. I'm not saying at the next meeting, but I'm saying if we were to get the information within 2 weeks, that would give us a week or so to consolidate it and have it for a future council meeting for discussion. But that'll put us a month out.
that's fine with me.
So would you be talking August, the first meeting, a special meeting in August, if they cancel the other meeting for July?
I guess it's up to council. We can shoot for the second meeting in August, or I mean, probably the second one would be better. Is I think if they're going to cancel that one in July, maybe August 1st meetings will be jam-packed. But if we can set a date, so I mean,
Who's they? Us?
yes, I thought that was a discussion earlier, was to cancel the meeting in July.
I'll say they like somebody else to do.
So if the preference is the council have a preference into talking about this in the first half of August or the second half of August?
First half.
First half, okay. Does anyone have any objections to that? Okay.
I was gonna say, I would do the first half because the second half, I believe, Mr. Altman and his team have a report and work session back to us about the stormwater plan that they're supposed to be doing.
All right, well, if you guys can give the information to me to consolidate, like the July 16th, would that work for you guys? And that will give
Fine with me.
to give it to Ms. Bess for her to add her part.
And also
Can you
just,
restate the date?
sorry.
What?
Can you restate the date?
I just picked a random day. I think I said July 16th. That's a Friday. And I think Ms. Bess, what were we going to ask?
I was just going to say that while they are, reviewing these documents to make suggestions, you can also, at the same time, if you want to log on to that new site, that site should show the board or the commission that you're interested in, and you can see the members. And then you can come back to me with any changes or updates in the interim, not necessarily that needs to be talked about at the meeting, but you can certainly go in there while you're looking around at other things and send back to me any changes so that I can make them and we can make sure that site is 100% on target.
I would be okay with that as long as it's not significant changes so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, just like their membership, just like maybe John Doe is not there anymore, but there's, Melissa Etheridge is there. I mean,
Okay,
just
those types of things.
Yeah,
Okay.
those types of things that can be updated so it's correct. And, we make sure that the information on there is workable.
Okay, perfect. Is everyone okay with the 16th? And
Works with me.
all right, I don't hear any objections. And Ms. Best, do you think that's enough time for you to give some outreach to these regional parties that we were talking about earlier and get their feedback for that meeting as well?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So that's all I have for this section. I'm going to actually pivot over to Ms. Best for, never mind, I'll just let her chime in. Moving forward, we want to talk about an outreach plan, but I guess we could say that for the subsequent meeting that we're going to have. Ms. Best has a plan that she would like to implement in regards to outreach to try to make sure we fill some of the vacancies now. If she wants to talk about that, and then I can end with the last slide.
Okay. So I know that like Keep Hopewell Beautiful, they are in need of members. So what I am working on is looking at, and this is where it would help me if you'd go in and look at your boards and commissions on that site and let me know of any changes. Because once I have that list 100% accurate, I can see what boards and commissions have openings. And then I can go through this new system very easily, pick everyone who's applied for that particular board and commission and get the information back to council right away so that the boards and commissions can be, kept well stocked.
And I think she's going to pull from those other top options for people to see if they're interested in filling other vacancies.
Yes, yes.
So the suggested outreach plan, if you go to the next slide, just to close this out, is we did approve a flyer previously to send out to organizations and people to try to get people to serve on boards and commissions. I do suggest that we approve some type of flyer or some type of outreach to put out there physically, but then also, if you go to the next slide, please, also do a draft social media flyer to post on Facebook, and also all of our departments that have social media pages, so that way people can know that boards exist, and to try to get people involved in that. Can we please have the next slide?
Mayor Bennett, can you move up one slide, please? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so the draft flyer, I have it included in the packet, suggests that we do a version of that to put on social media. Suggest the clerk do what she just shared about looking at vacancies already in the system and who has applications that might be interested in serving on a board or second or third choice. We used to have the clerk's office advertise every year in September in a local newspaper. That has not been done in a very long time. I put up there, if possible, if the budget is there to be able to do that, but that's actually a standard practice, but it just hasn't been done. So council need to decide if they want to do that. But then also my suggestion is to include the vacancies in the weekly news briefs that are sent out across the city, so people can also see there that we have vacancies for those who are looking at the newsletter. And I did not discuss this under the section of the clerk for the agenda packets, since Ms. Best will be able to run a report to be able just to include which boards have vacancies so that citizens reading the agenda packet will be able to see that as well. So if these are supported, that will provide 5 opportunities that we can say that we did some direct and indirect advertisements for vacancies and boards and commissions. Does anyone have any objections to that?
Nope.
And to be clear, instead of being September for newspaper, I put quarterly. Does anyone have any problems with that?
Nope.
So we would quarterly run an ad for
Just say we can do like a general thing we can put in the packet and when we meet in August. I'm thinking so that way we don't have to change it. By the time it runs an ad, those vacancies will be gone.
Yeah, I don't agree with an ad either. That's
Okay.
wasted.
But if you let me finish, what we can do is a general thing that says the city of Hopewell is looking for citizens to get involved in their government. Check out vacancies in the city's boards and commissions, like a very general thing to let people know that we have vacancies on boards,
Okay.
but to list the specific ones.
Gotcha.
Well, it's going to be on the website, right?
Yeah, but everybody doesn't do the website.
I didn't say they did, but if we put it on the website, we put it in the meetings, We put it in
Facebook.
Facebook. We put it in, Mr. Altman has listed them in his newsletter and et cetera. All of that is electronic. So I'm not sure how you reach the non-electronic people.
Newspaper.
So that's why I was saying the newspaper
No.
and printing off physical flyers. And in comparison, maybe, I mean, if there's more than one objection to the paper, then if there's more than one objection, then we can give you guys a budget for that. But we have money in the clerk's budget for ads. And so we can price it if that's what council wants. But if there's any other people opposing using the newspaper, then let me know.
Can I just chime in real quick, Councilor Gore? Is it possible that since we have these dates to come back, that we can put a placeholder here because we have some things on the agenda we do have to get to this evening? If you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm on my last slide. So I'm asking for clarification. Back in August, I know what to discuss. So if I can just get confirmation, I heard one person opposed to the newspaper, but everybody else is fine with the whole list. Is anyone else opposing the newspaper so I can know to keep it or remove it?
Well, I'd like to say why I oppose the newspaper. I think if we only do it once a quarter, we're only capturing a portion of openings. Two, we only have newspaper in the Tri-Cities, that's the Progress, and their overall subscriptions are down terribly in Hopewell, which means there's not a lot of people that take it. Maybe we can come up with another solution that would be for the non-electronic people besides.
I'm fine with that. I just want to get a poll just so I can know what to come back on. If people are fine with taking it off, I can take it off and bring another alternative. I just want to know where people stand.
Can you leave it on until we get the actual numbers of the reader base for Hopewell and including the Sunday distribution?
Okay, I'll get that in fees and bring that back with the other items. Does that work?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. The last thing is on the next slide is the last slide. So request that we update moving the standing committees of council and move that information to the council's page. We did discuss addressing standing committees. Everyone was on the same page about that. My suggestion is just to move that information and put it on our page. So that way it's still there, but in the right section. And then I would say, again, with the work that people are going to be doing by July, if you have any other innovative ideas to highlight boards and commission members online, we could do like a spotlight or something like that. I think that would be interesting. So that way we can also share that we support those who are currently serving the city, but then also use that as a second way to recruit members. So that's just an idea. And then last thing is, again, I'm not asking for a determination tonight, but please let us know at that July 17th, when you turn in your information, to let me know if you want to do the appreciation dinner or not. That was a standard tradition, but of course you didn't do it for COVID, but we're going to have to decide if we're going to do that or not. And then the last slide is just a slide of the draft flyer that I prepared. And that's it. So you can see when I'm talking about having something very general that doesn't list any boards and commissions, this was something very quickly done. It can be cuter than that, whatever you want to do, but I'm just trying to give you an idea to keep it very general. And that's all that I have. I can send out the follow-up to this via email for everyone as a reminder for July 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz. Councilor Gore.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open the regular meeting. We will have the prayer by Councilor Randolph, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, led by Councilor Gore.
No. I'm not prepared to do a prayer, sorry.
Mayor Ben,
right.
if you want to switch that, I'll just do the prayer and she can do the pledge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bow our heads, please. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to wake up this morning and be here. Thank you for protecting our family and friends in the community throughout this dangerous time. Lord, please bless us tonight during our discussions to continue to do what's in the best interest of the community and be great leaders for our city. Thank you for allowing us to be able to improve the city of Hopewell and continue to do great work. Please continue to bless all of our city employees, our families within the city, and those who are in leadership positions, to include all members of staff as we continue to do what's in the best interest of our community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to amend or adopt the regular meeting agenda?
I would like to make a motion to it. Oh, never mind. To adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Pelham, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. I don't see any hands. Roll call, please.
Mayor, Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yeah.
Councilor Randolph.
No,
Mayor Bennett, you have 6-1, motion passes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Pelham. I do not see any hands. Roll call.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
No.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
Yes, I was supposed to make an amendment.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Councilor Randolph.
yes,
Mayor Bennett, you have 6-1, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to unfinished business.
Oh.
That was-
Approval of minutes for Historic Preservation Commission.
What? Oh, public, oh. I would just like to say that those particular minutes, and we can't change the minutes for the historic preservation. I just wanted to make a comment that would be placed in our minutes that the comment made by the council that's a part of that particular committee that stated something about ward funds, that the public would know that at this time or that time, there was no such item in the budget, and it had gotten extracted last fiscal year.
and I'd like to make a comment to that, because I'm the person that made the comment on the minutes. And if I read the minutes, it doesn't say council, it says city fund, it says council funds. And it doesn't refer to whether it's ward funds or not.
It had the ward in there.
And quite frankly, well, the minutes I read didn't. And I told you that council funds are what I get paid, as far as I'm concerned, twice a month. And at the time that it was done, there was no budget discussion. And so I didn't know if there were going to be ward funds given back or not. And if not, then my council funds are what I get paid, and I would pay for it out of pocket, which is exactly what I've told that board. So you can
I read,
not like what I said in the minutes or not, but really, it's not up to you. It's up to me and how I pay for it. And as long as I don't try and use ward funds, which we don't have, which I wouldn't, then if I pay for it out of my pocket, which is my council funds that I get paid for twice a month, shouldn't be an issue, should it?
the minutes said ward funds, and we know, you know what you meant. They thought, you thought we had ward funds like there was appropriated before.
Not necessarily. You're assuming what I thought. And that's not appropriate for you to assume what I thought.
By saying not necessarily. What
Point
you,
of information.
as I stated, Madam Mayor, I had the floor. I let her interject.
Point of
that
information.
I would like
Information, please.
comments to be addressed in our regular meeting that
Chair Bennett, point of information, please.
should not be being impolite when someone else is speaking.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
For her to respond as the person.
I was talking to, anyway.
I have to, can I just make this point? I'm actually on the computer and the computer doesn't have a speaker or mic. So I'm also logged in with my phone. So if there's multiple people speaking, it's just a bunch of static. So I can't decipher who is who and who's saying what. So I did hear a point of information. I don't know where that came from.
Yes, it's Councilor Gore. I mean, while Councilor Randolph and Councilor Pelham, going back and forth, I was just trying to get clarity because I did read the minutes and it does explicitly say ward funds. And at the time of the meeting, the budget was already adopted for this calendar year, which means the fiscal year, which means that there would be no ward funds in the account regardless if we adopted a budget or not. But for the point of clarification, staff made the minutes. So what was mentioned and how is the sign being paid for? So we can get clarity, because in the minutes, it also said something related to talking to staff regarding payment. So can we just get clarity on what is the minute, and then how is the sign being paid for? So we can just resolve this.
So do you want
For Ms.
you
Griffin.
want to get clarity from the person from Councilor Randolph?
No, Ms. Griffin as a staff person who did the minutes, or maybe her, Mr. Ward, one or the other.
Get him on the phone and ask him if
Director Griffin.
pay for it.
I'm just saying.
Director Griffin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there has been a question and it's been sent to you. So if you would please answer.
Yes, can you repeat the question, please?
I just wanted to get clarity. In the minutes, it does say ward funds, and it also says directing staff to look at payment. I just want to get clarity if that was accurate. And then if it is accurate, how is the sign being paid for now? That's all.
At the meeting, Councilor Randolph did say that she would pay for the sign through ward funds. We were, as staff, we're going to check with various sign companies to determine a cost. We have determined a cost for those signs. We received 2 bids. One was for
$71.
Yeah, 200 and some odd dollars. And the other one was for around $800. That bid included front and back, which we did not ask for. So we would have to reduce that. In the reduction, it was $655. So one bid around $250, the other bid around $655.
Did Councilor Randolph indicate to the city planner that she would pay for it out of her pocket?
Well, one moment, ma'am. I still have the floor, Chair Bennett.
Well, let's get the whole story.
I'm not trying to. I mean, can
Accusing
you
me of
stop
something.
anything? I asked her to. Thank you. Please ask her to stop.
Councilor Randolph, Councilor Gore still has the floor, and then you have the next. you have it next.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. So with the sign quotes, this was my next follow-up question. We're just gonna say, again, to just resolve this, not accuse anyone of anything. So since you back, I mean, truthfully, the attitude is not necessary because I didn't say anything regarding Councilor Randolph. So now that you got the quotes back, what is the direction moving forward in regards to purchasing the sign? Ms. Griffin.
Yes. In speaking with the senior planner today, it's my understanding that there is some question about how the sign will be paid for based on the cost. We do have department funds to pay for that. At this point, again, there's some question about whether Council Randolph will be paying for the signs based on the cost.
And can we just get clarity on the type of signs? Because I was trying to get that through the minutes, and that's my last question, so we can all be on the same page.
Yes, it is a freestanding sign that will be placed on the property, just advertising that this is the Shiloh Lodge. It belongs to the city of Hopewell, and there will be a project underway. The Historic Preservation Board will meet on Thursday to approve the design, but it's a simple rendering of a building that looks like the lodge with some writing with the city logo.
Okay, thank you. I yield the floor back.
Thank you, Councilor Randolph.
I think it is a shame that it is a question of for Councilor Pelham to bring up what she thinks I thought or I was saying and whether I was saying that or not. Don't try and read my mind as you tell me all the time. Miss Griffin, the city planner indicated that to me that the sign was for one quote was $271 and the other one was, as you said, that we would not be using that. We would be using the one that was $271. You have not talked to him before today about whether I told him or not I would pay for the sign, because yes, he did indicate to me last week that there might be some funds. That was after I told him I would be glad to pay for it out of pocket, as I told Ms. Pelham in the last meeting that went to unfinished business. So if we'd like to get him on the phone and indicate that he indeed has heard from me prior to today that I would be glad to pay for it through council funds that I'm paid and would pay for the sign. But I think it's a sad state of affairs that Ms. Pelham feels she has to get on here and malign for something she interprets. And that's all I'm going to say.
Order, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Would you tell her the rule that says she does not have to say disparaging comments about other counselors?
So there is a rule. I do not have them in front of me, but I would like to also state this. When we're discussing and something that is on the floor, we need to make sure our comments are toward the
issue,
the action that's on the floor or the topic, and not towards each other. The second thing I would like to ask, if these, and this is for Councilor Randolph, if the minutes are incorrect, would you want to have them updated to reflect your comments?
No, the minutes reflected what that was paraphrased by what the meeting said. I said ward funds, but that is not up for other people's interpretation. That is up for my interpretation as I said it. If anybody wants to know, they should ask, not accuse and assume they know what I thought or meant.
Excuse me.
And I
Madam-
have
So
said,
you want to do what you,
Floor, Madam,
say in that
so would you
meeting,
like,
I would pay for it out of pocket as well, and have said that ever since.
I still have the
is
floor.
is that included in the minutes? Would you like that reflected in the minutes?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, well then, I think that should,
Madam Mayor, I want reflected, and also the fact, when we get paid, it's not ward funds. It's the City of Hopewell funds, not ward funds. Ward funds were funds designated for each individual ward, wards 1 through 7. So when you say ward funds, that's money that was dedicated out of the budget per ward.
That's your interpretation. My interpretation, when I spend my
Okay.
personal money that I get paid
Floor.
on stuff, it's
Okay.
ward funds.
I have the floor.
I'm calling the meeting to order, please. At this time, Vice Mayor Parton has his hand up.
So you relieve me of the floor. I hadn't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had the floor.
I'm going to say this. I cannot hear
I'm sorry.
when
That's
there's individuals that are talking at the same time.
as long
So,
print everything that I've said.
Councilor Pelham, are you saying you
All I
have
want
the floor?
that I've stated to be in our regular meetings, especially the definition of what ward funds have been since I've been on council. Other interpretations might come, but anyway, Madam City Clerk, please print those statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bess,
Yes,
will
ma'am.
you please let the record reflect in the minutes that the councilors would like their comments placed? Vice Mayor Parton.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I move that we approve the minutes.
What minute? Second.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Pelham.
I have a point of information, please. This is Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Just for a point of clarity. So, okay, we're taking action on the approval of the Historic Preservation Committee. Is that with the adjustments that were just discussed or not? Like, what are we approving?
We're approving the minutes as is.
Okay, thank you.
So therefore, I withdraw my second.
I'll second
Okay.
it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Randolph.
Was it Randolph or Denton?
It was both of us.
Okay. Okay.
Pick your pick.
Okay.
Pick
All
one.
right. Okay.
Clerk's choice. Councilor Randolph, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. I would like all of my comments to be included in this section of the agenda, please, Ms. Bess.
Okay. I'm making a note and I'll make sure all comments are included. Okay, it is noted.
Roll call.
Councilor Holloway,
No.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
No.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
No.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Councilor Randolph.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 4 yes, 3 no. Motion passes to approve HPC minutes.
Thank you. Moving on to.
You have the
Excuse me.
report of the
With my
city
mouth.
attorney.
Yes, we have reports of the city attorney.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett. I submitted a written report to council, and I can make an oral report to council if it's the pleasure of the council tonight.
Yes. I want to.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you all remember, back in May of last year, the city council transferred the responsibility of the FOIA to the city attorney's office. Subsequent to that action, council passed a resolution in which it designated the city attorney's paralegal / legal assistant as the city's FOIA officer, and designated the city attorney as the chief FOIA officer. Also in that resolution, there was a requirement that the chief FOIA officer report out to the council on an annual basis of the activity the office had performed over the previous year to demonstrate that the city was in compliance with the FOIA statute. And so with respect to that particular obligation, I just want to report out some statistical information for your consideration and acceptance. So the reporting period that's going to be covered in my comments tonight is from May 12, 2020, the date you transferred the responsibilities to the city attorney's office, until May 31, 2021. The total number of FOIAs that were received between those two dates, May 12, 2020 and May 31, 2021, was a total of 202. That 202 FOIAs include the 20 that were pending at the time the responsibility was transferred to the city attorney's office. So from start to finish, the total number of FOIAs that were processed completely through the city attorney's office was 183. At the time this report was prepared, which was again the end of the reporting period, May 31, 2021, 4 FOIAs that had been received had not yet been completed. They were pending. During the reporting period, 8 of the requests that were received were disposed of without any response by the city because the request had been made by requesters who were not Virginia citizens, and there's no legal obligation to respond to those FOIAs. And as a practice, the city does not respond to FOIAs from out-of-state requesters. In that same reporting period, 5 requests were canceled by the requester, and 2 requests were canceled because of duplication. The department that received the most FOIA requests was the police department. And as a result, the exemptions that we utilize most during the reporting period are the exemptions that apply primarily to police or law enforcement records. But in order, they were 1, records relating to juvenile information, 2, records related to witness information, and the 3rd was related to records related to ongoing criminal investigations. In order, the number of FOIAs that were received by department were 110 FOIAs for the police department records, 46 FOIAs for code enforcement records, 5 requests for fire department records, and at 4 each were the treasurer, water renewal, and the city attorney's office. At 3 each was public works, payroll, and then finally there was 1 request for voter registration records. During the reporting period, the city calculated that it cost $3,687.75 in cost to respond to FOIAs. We've not waived any of those costs, and we have recouped $2,297.23 of the cost that we billed out. So that concludes my statistical information relative to the office handling FOIA. I have no other additional information to provide. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
All right, council, please utilize your raise hand function. Councilor Gore.
I don't have any questions per se. I just want to thank Ms. Robinson for her staff taking over these duties from the clerk's office. You guys have handled it very well, and I'm glad to see the turnaround in how FOIAs are being managed, and great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Pelham.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for the work that you and the paralegal are doing on the FOIAs and getting back with citizens and out businesses based on their requests. Very thorough report. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, our FOIA officer, Marta Leon, does a terrific job. So this credit goes to her primarily. Thank you.
Well, please thank her for us, for me.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see any other hands. Moving on to CR1. Feasibility of setting, Vice Mayor Parton.
Thank you. This item is mainly just an item to authorize the city manager and his staff to look into the feasibility of maybe creating some enterprise-like accounts for code enforcement and also for Parks and Recreation. So that way, maybe we could try to incentivize these two departments where if they're making money off of things like code violations, grass cutting, getting increased membership down at the community center, that money could be used for capital improvements within their department. So if, for conversation's sake, if let's say that the recreation center generates $100,000 in revenue, that we allow Parks and Recreation to keep that $100,000, so that way they could use it for a park improvement as opposed to putting it onto a cap improvement plan that could end up getting lost and unfunded for so many years, that it helps streamline and get more of these improvements done in our city. And just an idea for Mr. Altman and his staff to research and bring back to council for consideration. That's all that this request is. Were there any questions?
I don't see any hands.
Okay. I make a motion that we authorize Mr. Altman and his staff to research the idea of creating some enterprise accounts for Parks and Recreation and the Planning and Development Office, and to bring back a report to City Council sometime in the next 4 months.
Do you have a date, Vice Mayor Parton?
I was just going to say within the next 4 months, because I know that there's a lot of other pressing issues coming up.
So motion dies for lack of a second.
I second it. Oh, I thought I said second.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Pelham. I do have a question. Vice Mayor Parton, have you reached out to Director Reed Miller in reference to setting up the enterprise accounts? Did you ask him to give, with this, I don't know if he has already initiated this project?
I mean, we've talked about it when I was out at Arlington Park one morning helping him spread some mulch, that this might be something that he's interested in researching to see what the feasibility of it is. And that was kind of the extent of, what I thought. And I was like, well, I think this might, be a good idea, that if a department is working hard to, increase revenue and memberships, that this might be a good incentive for them to do. And it's not a guarantee that it will actually, prove to be a benefit, that it would actually be a feasible thing, but just, gives, the green light to Mr. Altman and his staff to go and, research and bring it back to council for consideration.
Okay, so my question now goes to, I need some information. Is Director Reed Miller here now? And if he's not, I'm going to move to ask Mr. Altman a question. And Mr. Altman, do you know the price that we have the value of a community membership?
I don't know off the top of my head what the cost of a single or family membership is at the community center. But I think the motion as it's presented would allow us the opportunity to research if an enterprise fund is most appropriate, or if there's another form that would need to be used, and then look at those fees at what could be generated to support activities both in Mr. Reed Miller and Ms. Griffin's departments.
And with what we have here, how much revenue do we generate with what we currently have? Do you know that?
In the fee arena, I don't know, because obviously that's dependent upon the number of people in any given year that may join the recreation center, or in Ms. Griffin's case, that will fluctuate based on, and I'm assuming here we're going to look at fines that we put out for her department with regard to grass cutting, tall grass, trash, weeds, and debris, and those fluctuate annually. We're probably really talking about something that's other than a true enterprise fund, because a true enterprise fund will support the operation of the entire department. We're not going to be able to do that, but we can look at something that will be able to support the activity, specifically the activity, and bring a recommendation back with that. And I think the way that Mr. Parton has put the motion on the floor for us to research the idea, that provides us the leeway to bring all that information back. And what would we be looking at annually on an average basis, because we would look at a few years and what does that look like on an average, and then what could that potentially support as a result of any type of capital improvements or improvements within the Department of Development.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Pelham?
I'm sorry. I was going to ask Mr. Altman what his initial thoughts were. So that's all your initial thoughts were, right, Mr. Altman?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's, certainly worthy of investigation. I understand Mr. Parton and I have discussed the issue, and I understand what the thought process is. It was just a matter of trying to find the right mechanism to get there. And if there's enough money generated annually to really be able to support some type of activity, and we'll be able to have all those numbers for y'all when we bring back our recommendation for certain.
And currently, the monies that they generate, they do technically get to keep them, correct? It's just added within their budget of the monies that we augment, I guess, those dollars. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, what we collect goes into the general fund and gets dispersed out during the budget time. And like, say, Mrs. Griffin, we budget money every year for her. Unfortunately, I will say, for her to have grass cut. So we have an annual amount that currently doesn't necessarily come back to her, but we budget those funds. And I will make the political comment that I don't think we should have to, because people should be cutting their own grass and we shouldn't have to get a contractor out to do it. But what we could look at is, okay, Ms. Griffin, typically kind of similar to the information that Ms. Robinson just presented on the FOIA, this is the amount of cost and this is what we've recovered. So we know Mrs. Griffin has an annual cost in her budget. Of that, on average, what do we recover every year? And, is that enough money to support some sort of activity within that department.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Randolph?
Counselor Parton, is there a reason why you only suggested 2 departments for this, or the 2 that you did suggest?
I thought that it would be easier to start with 2 smaller, when I say smaller departments, as in they're not as complex as some of the others. And so that was just my initial thought. And if this proves to be really beneficial and it's actually something that council wants to explore even further, we can look at maybe doing some other departments like this in terms of, public works, sheriff's office with 295 money being used more towards public safety. It was just a thought process of mine to start with something smaller and easier and see if it's feasible and possible maybe for a larger department down the road, if that's something that council decides that they like.
Counselor Gore?
I'm not opposed to having the research done, but my question would be towards Mr. Altman in regards to this. Not every department has an activity that solicited funds. And so long-term, how would this impact relationships with departments, but then also theoretically speaking, I don't know how best to word this, but if they have a request and we're all using the same pot of money for departments, their request should be funded within reason, like everybody else is, right? So if they need to have $60,000 for grass cutting, and we've increased it over the years, then they should get funded at $60,000. Separating out money does what exactly versus just funding them at the level it needs to be funded, which should be happening, whenever possible.
So the potential impact, if I follow your train of thought there, so if we budget $60,000 for grass cutting, but let's say they only cut 30,000. You may end up with the following year, because if we're utilizing that money to come back in, that you have a shortfall, that you cut more grass the following, or vice versa. It's 60, but we're really cutting 90, which I think in the past we've had to come back to council, particularly for this issue with Ms. Griffin, to request additional funding during the year to address it. So there's a little bit of having that direct allocation. This revenue source goes to this activity, but it's not something that I think would be too detrimental to the process, because I don't think we're talking about really large sums of money. I mean, one small example of this is the banner program. So people paid for a banner. Those funds came in, went into that revenue account, then were moved into the expenditure account to pay for the banner. So if you're doing like a resource recovery thought process, when Ms. Griffin sends out someone to cut the grass, we cut the grass, we issue the payment request. And when we get that payment in, that revenue can go in that line item and then be moved to an expenditure line item for her, or maybe moved back into that grass cutting line to help, much like the revenue sharing at VDOT with our VDOT money, to continue that process during the fiscal year. To, if she cuts more than $60,000, we're recovering some of those funds to go back in and support that activity.
No, I don't disagree with that particular thought process. That makes sense. But if I did not hear correctly, please let me know. But I heard more about capital improvements.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear capital improvements, I'm thinking about projects. And when I think about projects, I think that, this is a long-term conversation that we've been having about having everybody's request for capital improvements that's brought to council for us to start thinking long-term about how we're going to fund them and make sure everyone is, getting equitable projects across the board. So the discussion specifically said capital improvements, and I think that can cause problems. But if you're talking about cost recovery, like 2 examples that you just specifically gave about grass cutting, going back to the grass cutting line, I agree with. The banner going back to the banner program, I agree with. Things like that, I don't see how that can pose the issue, and it makes complete sense. But if you're having a bigger conversation about incentivizing departments that do have the ability to solicit funds to then be able to get more capital projects when others do not, I think that's going to cause a problem. So I just need clarity on what is this request, and that goes to Councilor Parton. Is it cost recovery or is it for capital projects?
Well, let's make them both. Let's see what our options are. What we have nothing to lose.
There's a vote on the floor.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Questions.
When you said your motion, did you not say capital projects? I want clarity on the motion that was made.
Yeah. We can put capital projects in there. We can put cost recovery. We can add that to the motion. Like I said, it's open-ended in the idea of trying to do something new and see if this is actually feasible.
Okay, so let me ask the clarity to Ms. Best. Ms. Best, can you restate the motion, please?
I have the motion motion from Mr. Altman.
Excuse me, I have a question for the city manager, Councilor Holloway.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The motion.
Councilor Holloway has the floor.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I asked for her to read the motion really quickly. I can wait.
Okay. After you read the motion, Councilor Gore, will you yield to Councilor Holloway?
No, I can yield to her now as long as Ms. Best just remembers to read it out. I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
This question is directed to Mr. Altman. How does the city track city property that needs to be maintained for grass cutting? I noticed that they track constituents, but how do they track if the city property needs to be maintained and cut?
So we have a list of city properties that our Public Works Department maintains and cuts. And if there's one out there that needs an increase in frequency, please let me know. But we have within Public Works a crew that goes out and cuts our properties. So that's kind of and I don't want to say rotational, but every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending upon what type of weather conditions we're having. If it's really dry and the grass isn't growing, we're not cutting it as much. But we have a list that we maintain of city-owned properties to make sure that we're maintaining them.
So I need to call you in reference to some of the areas in Ward 2.
Yes, ma'am. If you got
a report every year.
Yep. If you got
I will do that.
Let me know.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Best, will you restate the motion?
Yes. Motion for Mr. Altman and staff to research the idea of creating enterprise accounts for parks and recreation and planning and bring back to council for review. Is that correct, Councilor Parton?
Yeah, include in there for the purposes of capital improvements and cost recovery.
And
for the purposes. Okay, for the purposes of capital improvement and cost. What was after cost?
Recovery.
Recovery. Okay. So you want me to restate the whole motion?
Yes, please.
Motion for Mr. Altman and staff to research the idea of creating enterprise accounts for parks and recreation and planning and bring back to council for review for the purpose of capital improvement and cost recovery.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Councilor Pelham, are you okay with that? You seconded the motion.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Roll call.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Palom,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. I will give CR2 Counselor Gore.
Yes. There's been an ongoing issue in Anchor Point in Eagle Cove regarding the road infrastructure. I tried to deal with this a couple years ago, but and code did help. They came out and addressed the landscaping issues. We never really got to the road aspect of it because the developer. But as of lately, since pretty much September, October, I've been trying to get resolution regarding complaints I've been receiving. If anyone drives over there, there's huge potholes on the road and the apron where the road is supposed to connect it's really bad. It can mess up your car because it's so deep when you're trying to enter in the subdivision. I will defer to Ms. Griffin, Dr. Griffin, for clarification if I state anything. But from my understanding, the developer was not required to finish paving that section until the development was completed. So right now there is a road, but it's not a complete road. Meaning like the top layer has not been added, which is why there are so many gaps. The developer has not had any plans to finish the subdivision, so therefore there is no need to do the road. And again, I've been working on this since September, October with the HOA members, and they're kind of getting to the point where they really want to see a resolution to this or to have some direction on what to do. So Ms. Griffin has been helping to contact the developer along with Mr. Butler, the city engineer, to get some resolution. And I'll before I pivot to Mr. Altman, he did send an email recently saying that Mr. Butler has made some significant progress. The owner group has agreed to pay for some paving in the Eagle Drive for the townhomes. I just need to get some more clarity regarding what the project entails and the time frame for the constituent. I did have them watching today so they can get that information. We are going to have a meeting with Mr. Altman. I'm waiting for them to give me some dates to share with him. But really up until this point, we've been waiting for a response in regards to what the developer is willing to do for the road. One thing I do have to follow up on, there's been complaints regarding the landscaping in that area. There's been complaints about the power lines. I know they have to go to Dominion regarding that, and then some issues with the fencing in the area, but then also the maintenance of city property versus the developer's property. So I'm just publicly sharing this so then the group that is watching knows I am still trying to follow up on this. And when we have our meeting, please bring your list prepared to give to Mr. Altman. But I'll just defer to Ms. Griffin just to clarify if I correctly captured the issue with the developer not doing the road. And I think she might have just dropped off. No, she's still there.
Yes, Councillor Gore, you accurately stated that until the subdivision is complete, then the roadway is not brought into the city maintenance program. So that's where it is. But Mr. Altman has stated Mr. Butler has been working with the new firm that has taken over that particular subdivision. And so you should have word here pretty soon on a resolution.
Okay, and then moving forward, when these things happen in development deals is how it was structured, because I know you had to pull the deal because there was also issues regarding the trash receptacles in Eagle Cove and the trash bins not being put back. And there was discussion about there potentially being something in development deal to have like some type of barrier for them to put the trash receptacles behind instead of their backyard. I have to circle back to that. I don't remember the last thing that was said regarding that, but if you know, then you can chime in now, but if not, then we can circle back at a later time. But in particular, when it comes to these issues, is it the development deal that states when they have to complete the road? Is there something standard that we have in our ordinances? Because if that's the case, you really need to start closing these loopholes, because I can see that happening in the other subdivision that has not been completed yet.
It is based on it's based on how many units have been occupied in that particular subdivision. And so at this point, there are several sections to Anchor Point. Anchor Point is a planned unit development. And so most of those sections have not been complete. And that's why the road system is not yet into the city's system. For instance, Parkview Point off of Jackson Farm Road, that is 100 houses, and those are complete. And as those were done at a certain percentage, then that road system came into the city's maintenance program. So the issue with Anchor Point is that the entire subdivision is not complete, or at least at a point where it would substantiate us going in and providing that road system and doing the maintenance on that. If there's still going to be construction going on, we don't want to bring that particular road system into our system, and then we then have to maintain the road when you're still going to be impacted by any construction, or land disturbance.
Okay, so just to clarify, what I mean is it the development deal, or is there an ordinance that talks about what you just described to prevent this in the future? Because this developer has not touched that property in years. And so if it wasn't for the constituents complaining, we wouldn't be addressing fixing the road. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, developers keep getting out of this. So is it a development deal, or is it a guideline that we follow that we can adjust to address this in the future?
It's something that we discussed during our site plan process, and also that's something that's discussed when we require them to put a bond or surety on the property after the site plan, when they're actually going through and doing the development. So it's nothing that's in our ordinance, but it is negotiated after the site plan process. I don't think any of us anticipated, Anchor Point and not being built out, over this many years. And so, and this, to me, this is a unique circumstance. This is the largest the largest planned unit development that we have in the city. There are others, but this is the largest, with varying types of housing. There's townhouses, there's the condos, and there's also the single family detached. And at the time that they were being built, we did have the housing market bubble. So this is quite unique. And I don't think you're going to see this circumstance in other areas in the city with the developable land that we have.
Thank you. And we got our meeting started 8 minutes behind schedule. So we do have 11 minutes in case somebody wants to make a motion to extend the meeting.
Councilor Pelham?
I thought until we finish this item, that's when the meeting would end.
We can extend it prior to that. It doesn't have to.
Councilor Pelham has her hand up.
Well, I'll make a motion that we stay to finish the rest of the CCRs. Since we don't have any more items in this meeting, we might as well.
Are you saying to finish CR2? To stay until we finish CR2?
She was saying all CRs.
Yeah, or at least 10.
I removed my motion. I removed my comment. And I'm only saying this because we have a habit at 9:31, no one is listening anymore, and then we get aggravated with each other. And I just want the history to, reflect that. So I wouldn't mind staying to finish your item. Other than that, I do not agree on staying later than that.
Oh,
I move that we finish CR2 and then adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Gore. Roll call.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
No.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 6 yes, 1 no. Motion passes. So.
Thank you.
Councilor Gore.
Yeah, that's really all I have. Ms. Griffin addressed the concern that I have, and she said this is kind of, I guess, the unique circumstance, and then also given the size of the development. I will just follow up with asking about the trash bins to get final clarity on if it was a development deal that they were required to put up some type of barrier for the trash receptacles for people to put them back. And then default, Mr. Altman was setting a meeting with the constituents within the next week. So as opposed to waiting on them to give dates, if he can provide dates in that email, that will be helpful. And then they can choose which date fits their schedule. And then I'll defer to Mr. Altman for any other feedback, because as I shared, he did respond saying that Mr. Butler was making some progress.
So thank you, Councilor Gore. Mr. Butler has been working extensively on this issue with the new ownership group to address the paving, particularly on Eagle Drive. And for those that aren't completely familiar, when you come into at the Anchor Point development and you get past the median, divided median area, Eagle Drive is the second road on the right. There's a small cul-de-sac that goes off to a series of houses, but Eagle Drive goes off on the right-hand side. There's some houses that front on it, but it leads to the townhouse development that runs parallel to the power line. So we've made significant progress, and well, Mr. Butler has, on working with the development group to secure a surety to finish paving that road, but also working to pave the area of the drive aisle area of the townhouse development where there's developed units. So we won't be paving the areas where there aren't developed units. As Ms. Griffin said, as they go in and begin to develop those pad sites that are undeveloped currently, the concrete trucks, the block trucks, all of those deliveries will begin to wear down the pavement. So we don't want to expend those funds to pave those areas that aren't developed yet. And as those areas then develop, that'll be the responsibility of the developer when they're finished to pave that out for those new units that are going to be built. But if we don't want to go in and spend a tremendous amount of funds and then have it all break down again and have to go back and reinvest funds. And in this case, he's worked really well and really hard with the new ownership group. The new ownership group, to my understanding, is very interested in getting this done and addressing this issue for the residents in Anchor Point overall, and those particularly along Eagle Drive and in the townhouse area. So I'll be happy to get some dates together for the next week to have a meeting with the homeowner group and address some of those issues. And so to kind of address the overall issue regarding, say, a development agreement, the city didn't enter into a development agreement with the ownership group. This was a part of a rezoning, the plan unit development rezoning. So there were, if I remember correctly, the last time we did a rezoning of it, I believe I was here, and there were proffers offered for improvements. And then, as Ms. Griffin has indicated, there are items within not only our subdivision ordinance, but our zoning ordinance that those individuals have to comply with when developing a subdivision and building it out. So there are ordinance requirements as a result of that, but we did not enter into a development agreement like we would, say, with a developer who wants to develop a city piece of property. So all we're dealing with is the ordinance requirements that are out there in our zoning and subdivision ordinances, the E&S requirements, those items. So that's where we are. We don't have an agreement per se for all of these items, but we'll look into certainly the trash receptacle issue that you mentioned. And, obviously we're making progress, and we'll be able to talk about that with the homeowners regarding paving. So, and any other items that they may have questions about, landscaping or what that may be, please let us know in advance of the meeting so we can have some answers ready for them that night. That'd be appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Yes,
I had a question from Mr. Altman.
yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. You're muted.
Do you have any litigation with that group? I didn't know they had changed developers, but the first group, did we have old litigation about those issues? You remember?
I don't recall having any litigation with them. We did have issues. We have a provision in our zoning ordinance that when they would try to come in and get a rezoning or apply for a building permit, we did have issues with them being current on their real estate taxes. And I believe that those issues have been resolved, but we did have those issues ongoing that we had to work through that. But I don't recall ever having to take them to court or being in court with them during my previous time with the city.
Yep. Well, it sounds like the new developers are at least helping more.
Absolutely. And I would say there's certainly a commitment from my conversations with Mr. Butler that they want to do, finish this out, and they want to do a good job there. I mean, this is, Ms. Griffin used the word unique with regard to the circumstances, but I think it's a very unique property in that the river access and the ability for the residents to have access to the river certainly brings a heightened level of opportunity there. And we definitely want to see the new development group live up to that potential of what that property brings as a signature opportunity here in the city for not only the developer, but our residents and future residents. This is a really great opportunity to have a signature development on the river in Hopewell. So.
All right. Thank you for the update.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Can I say one last thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Altman, Ms. Griffin, can you also inquire who from the new developers, it will be like the community liaison or support, since they're not a city entity? I mean, we can share their information. I think it would be helpful for the HOA members to know who, to put a face to a name or to know who is in communication with the city, because they do have some HOA items they want to have discussed. And so I know they have been struggling to find appropriate point of contact, and I believe they must have been trying to reach out to the old developers. So if you can inquire from that organization who would be a point of contact, and even go a step further to see if they will be willing to sit in on our meeting as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other hands? I don't have access right now.
There's no hands up, Mayor Bennett.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you needed to happen this evening, Councilor Gore? Did you need us to take action on anything?
Nope. This was just on there because it was a prior CCR. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.
Right.